Welcome to the Midwestern Method Podcast. Today's episode, I'm interviewing Katie Tomaszewski from Deepline Health. I'm specifically talking to her about a program she does called Dynamics, but we talk about Pilates, kind of like the history of Pilates, all kinds of cool stuff in that. We go in a lot of different directions, but we have a really good conversation. I know you're going to enjoy this episode. Thank you to all my Patreon subscribers. And if you have not joined my Patreon club, what are you waiting for? Well, I mean, seriously, what's going on? So take a look at my link below so that you can join my Patreon. If you're interested in exclusive content, this content is generally guided breathwork session, multiple breathwork sessions, techniques, all about breathwork is basically what my Patreon is all about. So if you enjoy that sort of thing, have a look at my Patreon club. Also, please take a look at my sponsors below. We got Mandala Chocolate, Dream Nutrition, and if you would like to sponsor the show, please get a hold of me at the email address below. Guys, thanks so much. Let's listen to the show. Welcome to the Midwest. My name is Jesse, and today I am happy to have on my show Katie Tomaszewski from Deepline Health. And actually, she has been, I met Katie, I met you, has it been a year or two? I forget how long it was whenever you came to one of my Wim Hof
It's probably been about, I would guess it's been almost 2 years. Got it. Nope, it's only been a year and a half since I started playing with Wim Hof. November of 2018.
Okay.
And then I came to your workshop like in that spring, maybe a February or so, or March.
Right. I think, I think so. So anyway, So Katie is a Wim Hof method practitioner, and she has her company is Deepline Health, and basically you focus mostly on Pilates. What all is Deepline Health, and how did it all get started?
So Deepline Health is a great story. I a few years ago when I took a break from drinking alcohol, just because I had a lot of ideas and I just found myself never doing them. And it's not that I had to stop drinking. It's just like I knew I could find some more time and resources and all the good things. So I made a commitment to stop drinking for 6 months so I could get my website going and just find the time to get everything done that I wanted to. And my idea was to create an online studio where everything was live, not a library, but a live online studio. And kind of the idea was, why would anyone do that? Why would anyone want that? Okay. So I just kept chugging along. I started with a blog. I started making some park workout videos and different things. And then along that road, I would pop up classes like when there was a big polar vortex and everything closed down. So I was popping up a bunch of classes, and it was pretty successful. And I look out for emergencies where things might be closing, and I do some pop-ups. So of course, we had a huge emergency recently with COVID, and I noticed my daughter's school was closing and different things, and I thought, okay, I'm going to pop this up for 2 weeks so we can get through this little thing.
Right. Yeah.
Well, here we are 10 weeks later. So it's been an idea that has been slowly growing. I had been started to collaborate with some other teachers to do more of like a workshop based studio, but now we're running as a full studio. I have 11 classes a week that are movement based. We run several different workshops. We have a meditation class. So it's cool because as a member, you get this whole mind, body, spirit package. And I feel like I'm almost describing myself as a personal shopper for your wellness. There's so much out there. And so my members trust me to be out there in the field and filter down what will be valuable to them in a way that they can understand it and use it. So it's been really cool because I've been able to showcase things like Wim Hof and Kundalini breathwork and stuff that the average person who's not super into wellness isn't even going to hear about, but can be very healing and really powerful. So that's always been my dream, is to bring these incredible healing modalities to people that only know how to go to their doctor. That's just the only thing they know about or they have access to. And they don't know that there could be other things that they could do to help themselves. So it's been a real thrill. I'm super excited about the, ability to bring all these people that were maybe never going to use Zoom. They're like, nope, I don't know what that is. I don't really feel comfortable with the internet. And now they're using it, and now they're getting access to all this really rad stuff. So it's been pretty great.
So your whole studio is virtual. It's all on Zoom. Is that right?
All virtual. And I do, once the studios open up again, I will teach some classes in person, and I do some in-person events and workshops and things like that. But primarily Deep Line Health Club is an online studio.
So, and mostly you yourself, you teach Pilates. Is that primarily, that's what you focus on, or do you teach other specific things yourself? I know you get a lot of other people to come in and teach meditation and things like that, but your focus is mostly Pilates. Is that right?
Yeah, that's where I'm trained. I'm trained in classical Pilates. I've studied Pilates extensively, but it's almost sort of like Pilates can be a bit of an umbrella term, and there's some controversy in the industry about that, but it's sort of something that people understand as, oh, this is, a thoughtful movement practice. So whether or not you're using the exact choreography of Pilates, or you're using threads of Pilates within other things, which is what I tend to do, it's more of thoughtful, drop into your body. I do teach some classes that are super high fitness, but a lot of them are more about getting the nervous system down, moving your connective tissue so that you leave class and you feel ready and you feel good, not that you feel like, yes, I punished myself for that piece of cake I had. Oh, I'm sore for a week, although sometimes people are sore for a week, but it's just not that kind of approach.
Yeah, I always thought Pilates sounded kind of wimpy, to be honest. I mean, no offense, but as I was going through my life, I was like, I've heard of, okay, there's like, we did some Pilates, and I never heard about the bros, going to Pilates or anything. So I was like, well, it's probably something I'll never try. And then I tried it one time. And it was one of those things where I was like, okay, I've got nothing else to do. I'll go try your Pilates class. I was thinking I was just like, I was thinking it'd just be this really simple, like, I don't know, just kind of like a sweat into the oldies type of experience. And then I was very surprised. I was super surprised, and I was sore for a long time. When we talk about the core work, really, I was really impressed. And then I learned more about it's Joseph Pilates who came up with it, and all of the research that he had done, which I found to be a really interesting story.
I gotta say, I have a blog that I'm forever adapting, and it will be posted at some point, all about how Joseph Pilates and Wim Hof would be best friends. They're almost the same exact person. When you hear stories of Joseph Pilates, and he's emphatic about this and he was this in the 1930s, he's like, this modern living is not good for our souls, and it's not good for our health, and we need to breathe deep, and we need to, there's pictures of him standing outside in the cold snow in his underwear. He was he's very Wim-like. I think they would definitely be vibing in the same crew if they were alive at the same time.
Well,
but
as I understand it, he was trying to put together, he took elements of yoga, he took elements of other traditional I guess methods of fitness and wellness, and basically was trying, he felt like he could improve a person's overall psychology. Is that right?
Yeah, well, he definitely believed in the whole person.
Mm-hmm.
And he believed that breath was super, super, super important. And he talked all about how we have all this stale air in our lungs, and you really have to expel it and take breath in. And he believed that we were getting old too young, that we should not be feeling old until we're 90, 100. And he put that all into just the way that we live our lives. And so, yeah, there's this psychological aspect to it, but that was before, before those terms really existed that much. It was very, very, we were at the beginning of our societal, like, whatever we want to call it, our changes. So, but he saw it, and he was fighting adamantly against it. And he has a couple amazing books out. They're so cool to read. One called Return to Life, which has the Pilates exercises in it. And it was meant to be a manual. Back then they didn't have podcasts and YouTube and all that. So he made a manual, and he talks about his belief system, and he includes examples of all the exercises with photos. And it's amazing how much it has stayed true. It's not something that's like, well, yeah, that part's not so
that's really cool
anymore. But he based a lot on swimming, a lot on cats, and a lot on babies. So he kind of studied.
I'm sorry. Sounds like we're breaking up just a minute.
Pilates. Am I back?
You're back.
Okay.
You were talking about, but you're getting to a really cool part. I was really interested. So you were studying cats and babies and
babies. Yeah. and yes, there's like yogic kind of influences in there, but nature is what it comes down to. And one of my favorite Pilates mentors, her name's Amy Alpers, she likes to say that Pilates brings you back to nature. So when people do Pilates, they're like, oh my gosh, I feel like their faces, it's like their eyes have spirals in them. They're like being awakened, because there's these parts that just have been sort of trained into these linear movements and these linear thought patterns. And even modern fitness, it's a lot of like up, down, but that's not actually how we move in our lives. Is more spirally. And so
exactly.
it enlivens you, and it brings you back to what your natural animal self would be doing. You'd be crawling a little, you'd be having to reach for that cherry on a tree, and you'd be standing on a branch, and everything would be spiraling and lifting, and you wouldn't be just up and down with a barbell for 30 reps or whatever. Although that does build muscle, and that's important. There's more things to do.
yeah, absolutely. And getting back to that, because one of the things, of course, we find more and more is that modern life is this wonderful thing. Obviously, we don't want to, I wouldn't want to give up heating and cooling and indoor plumbing and all these things. But obviously, there are a lot of things that, our ancient ancestors would just be blown away that we're dying of and that we have problems with, like mobility and movement. Like, how is it possible we're dying of eating too many calories? All these things that are modern inventions that we're dealing with. And so you've got also, so Deep Line Health, also one of the things that you're doing is a program called Dynamics. And this is something that I've been following on your Instagram because Katie, you have, I don't know how many pictures of yourself hungover and like
drunk.
I love it. It's one of those things where, first of all, just to take pictures, it's like, hey, I forget one of your things you were saying you were trying to get bed sores or something like it was hilarious.
Yeah, it was like a Facebook post from, I don't know, 2007 or something, and I was like trying to get bed sores. That was my status update on like a Sunday. I must have just been having like a nice 2-day hangover.
Yeah, and so I got to say, if for anybody watching or listening, it is kind of fun to watch, to follow Dynamics, because one of the things you see, not only, of course, Katie sharing the fun, I guess, side, like there's a lot of commentary to your pictures, but then also you see a lot of the before and afters, a person who's gone through the Dynamics program. What is kind of, if you don't mind, just kind of elaborate on what all you're trying to do, and where did this come from, this Dynamics?
Yeah. So Dynamics is sort of my flagship program, my flagship workshop of deep line health. And it came up very organically, to be honest. As I mentioned before, I took 6 months off of alcohol, and I thought, you know what? I was turning 35, and I thought, and then when I turn 40, I'll do it again, and then 45, and then 50. And by the time I'm 55, I probably won't want to drink that much anymore if I just keep doing these breaks, because I didn't feel I had a problem. It was just sort of like this cycle, and I really liked drinking, but I never was out of hand. I didn't get in trouble. I didn't fight with people too often, so I mean, of course there were some regrets, but it wasn't an issue, per se. I just saw, I just had to get real that it was kind of a barrier to some stuff I wanted to do with my life. It just kind of kept me in one spot. I'd take 3 steps forward, and then I wouldn't take another step for 2 months,
Yeah.
So, after I took that break, I started experimenting again with alcohol, because my annoyance was the hangover more than anything.
That sucks. Yeah.
Right. I mean,
that's the part that sucks about alcohol.
Great, just that hangover.
Exactly.
And so for me, I learned that it caused me a ton of anxiety and depression. And again, something that I had taken an antidepressant at various points, when some big stuff had happened in my life, a divorce, a friend passing away, but I wasn't like totally in a medicated state. I was self-medicating with alcohol. But when I took that away, I realized how deeply that was connected. And I was like, I have almost no symptoms of those situations anymore. So I got stuck in this tough place of like, to drink or not to drink. And I was almost ashamed of not drinking. I was
weird,
almost like, didn't want people to know, because they're like, what's your problem? Why are you ruining everybody's fun? We're trying to have a good life here.
Right. Well, there's this thing.
I kept it.
Yeah, I feel like there's a thing where you go to a party or something like that, and if you choose not to drink, it is this thing where people start to feel guilty because they are drinking around you, and then they're like, I'm sorry, and then it turns into a thing. I know what you mean.
Yeah, and it's why people pretend to drink when they're not. It's just
Which
so
is so
ingrained.
silly. Yeah, okay, yeah.
It's so ingrained in our culture to support the alcohol use. And I mean, that's literal brainwashing from the alcohol industry, television and movies. And, it's the same if you look at old cigarette ads from the 70s. And it's like, I'm a woman of power, look how skinny I am. And it's like, that's because I smoke Capri Ultra Lights. And, we were making ashtrays for our parents for Christmas at school. Yeah. And it was normal. And if you didn't let people smoke in your house, you were kind of a stick in the mud or something.
Right,
maybe.
You're prude,
Right. So I see that, and I see alcohol, and I see a lot of similarities of where things are kind of turning as far as people are getting aware and going, wait, alcohol is carcinogenic. Wait, alcohol is aging me and costs a ton of money and inflames my health conditions and whatever. So I kept taking long breaks. Like I sort of call it the long break lifestyle, where I'd take like 3 months off, and then I'd go, okay, I'm going to be easy on myself because I'm going to drink at this wedding or this or that. But I kept drinking less and less. And people started noticing that this was something I was really sticking to, which was surprising because I was the one who always suggested to get wine, showed up with 2 bottles, let's get more, I was like the one keeping the party going usually. And so people started asking me, how did you, are you missing it? How did you kind of fall out of love with alcohol? How did you break up from this? And I was advising a lot of people on a one-to-one basis, just as friends. And I finally thought, you know what, let me get a little group together, because this will be easier if we just chunk up, and then we can meet like a couple times a week, and we'll just play around with this. And it was a great success. So I continued again a few months later, and now I'm in my 4th season, and I love Dynamics. It's like the light of my month. It's a great group, and it's not an addiction program. It's not even necessarily to get you sober. Yeah. The goal is just to actually learn how to show up for yourself better. And at the end of the day, a lot of us use alcohol as a buffer. We use alcohol to tolerate stuff we're not super into, but we're like, but I should go to that party, or I should hang out with this friend that I don't actually really is a very toxic friendship. But I drank the whole time to make it tolerable. So you just get really clear on what's up in your own life. And some people decide not to drink really after that. And some people go, that was cool, and I'm going to like still explore my drinking. And I think that it's, you know, it's too soon to tell, because it's like you planting the seed, and they maybe took 12 weeks off a year ago, and that goes now next year, maybe they take a month and a half off again on their own, kind of thing. So it's just opening up that door of what could be on the other side.
I think this is one of those issues that is it's kind of awkward because of the way we look at things. We have in our minds, you're either a hopeless alcoholic, right? You're either just in the gutter while Frank keeps getting arrested and drinking and driving, or you're not. You know, it seems like you're either one of these two things. And then to actually say, hey, you know what, man, there's this thing that, I don't know, I just seem to do. Like, I think one of the things for me, I can relate a little bit about the person who likes to get other people to drink. And so that was that.
You're awesome and fun.
Oh man, you know, but the thing is, what happens is now I have a lot of relationships that is where our friendship started, right? So it was always the thing where, hey, whenever we get together, we get hammered, and then, you know, that's kind of the thing we do. And then you start to realize, well, why do I really even hang out at all? Why? And it's not like I don't like this person. Hey, we'll go have lunch or whatever, and it's fine. But it's like, if we do an evening, it's the only thing we know how to do. So kind of reprogramming what hanging out is, I think, would be a really helpful thing. And so from what I'm hearing, I mean, it sounds like that's pretty much what it is. Is that, am I hearing it right?
Yeah, no, there's a big aspect to many of us it's like we forget how to interact in a vulnerable way unless we're drinking. And we all want that. We want to connect.
That's a great point. Yeah.
You know, and so we get into like business mode all day when we're in our little like phony professional way, and like, you know, see you later. And whatever. I don't know what these people do. I've never had that life, but I get that vibe sometimes.
I think they say synergy a lot. They say synergy and things. That's what I've heard. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you have your 2-3 drinks, and then you can unbutton, right, and be relaxed. And so it's a great opportunity to connect with people in that vulnerable open space, totally sober. So you've got your training wheels there that are happening. And also it helps you get creative. And you might like this analogy because you've got a little one and you're in quarantine.
Yeah.
And like, right, when you don't know what to do, throw them the screen. Works every time. Works every time. Right. But what happens when they're on that screen way too long and way too frequently? They turn into friggin' maniacs.
They do. It's ridiculous.
They're like whacked.
Yeah.
And you take the screen away, and they're like, this is boring. There's nothing to be done. Ugh, my life, this sucks. I want a good life. Give me my screen. But half an hour later, all of a sudden they're like pulling something out of the craft drawer and painting, or creating a movie with the, you know, in their minds. We'll say we're not giving them screen back in this example, but you know what I mean to bring that up is that we as adults are like alcohol with the screen. I'm somewhere, I don't know what to do. Give me the screen. Give me the drink. Give me the drink. But if you just let yourself be uncomfortable for those few moments, and it is only a few. After that first week or two, people say that there's like maybe 10 minutes a week of uncomfortableness, and you know, it seems like it's going to be so much. It's like 10 minutes a week. And so you give yourself that space to just be uncomfortable, and then all of a sudden you actually just have you know when you're having a good time, you connect more deeply with the people that you're actually supposed to connect with. If you're not vibing with somebody, that's okay. You should move to another conversation, not just pour another drink and stay in that space, because there's more interesting things
why you're not vibing with that person.
Yeah, get your information, be clear with it.
So as far as the quarantine life that we've all been living, you know, there's these reports, you know, alcohol has been selling like crazy. It's something that we see a lot more of. And of course, people aren't drinking socially even. I mean, it's
Right.
something you can't go to the bar. So a lot of people are drinking at home. A lot of people who don't normally drink are drinking massive quantities. Have you seen any changes? Has it been harder for your group, or has this been something that your group has brought up a lot? Because I
Well,
know it's gotta have some kind of an impact.
yeah. So the quarantine started right at the end of my last group.
Okay.
So the cool thing is after you get to a certain place with it, you're kind of good. It's like that first month is the time that I think that people have a relationship with sobriety, because that's what people usually cleanse with, is like 2 weeks or a month. And that's the withdrawal period. That's not
Right.
the good part yet. The good part is week 5 to forever. And
Right.
so most
Yeah.
people just don't make it that long, or they're at week 5, and then by week 6 they go back to drinking, because you kind of get, there's sort of a dip at that point. That's a hard point, week 5, 6. But by the end of it, you're like, nobody finishes dynamics and is like, I've been holding on to this bottle of wine, I can't wait to drink it. Like, most people go for weeks or months after, and just kind of like, it casually, comes in again, but there's no hunger for it. So those guys were kind of set up that they were starting quarantine on a sober note.
Yeah.
But then I thought, okay, I'm supposed to recruit for a new group now, and I don't think that this is the right time. I don't even want to be putting anything on social media about why drinking is not a good idea, because we're all struggling, and I don't want to shame anybody.
Yeah.
I was very conflicted if I should do a program at all. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, I know that there are people that were already sick of drinking, and now they have found themselves in quarantine, and they're in that cycle. And I've been there. You're just like, don't want to drink, but you're like, just pour the wine,
Yeah.
But you want out. You wish somebody would help you get out. So I went, all right, let's just do this. But these guys have been, we're only on our 2nd week right now, but everybody's been really loving it so far. It's when you take those first, you get that air after taking the alcohol away. It's like a relief to not have to deal with drinking. It really is.
Yeah, I think boredom leads a lot of people to drinking, and it's just a lot of bad behavior. I know it's boredom has.
Well, can I tell you what boredom comes down to?
Tell me.
Judgment. So
judgment. Yeah.
It's a judgment of self or a judgment of the situation that you're in. So if you feel like life is boring, you've got to look at like, how critical are you of yourself and others? Because those go hand in hand. And if you feel like I always felt like my value was to be the most loud, exciting, fun person with the best stories. I just had to keep it coming. That's what the people are paying for. And so I felt my identity was really rocked when I took away alcohol, because sometimes I'd be at a party and I just wouldn't be in that mood, because that's not natural to be like that all the time. And so getting back to my natural self and accepting that sometimes my natural self is a little bit quieter, and that's okay. Nobody's counting on me to be any other way. And if they are, then it's not really a relationship that's great for me. If I'm their court jester, I like a little deeper bond than that. So I do get that boredom thing a lot, and you really gotta, that's a perfect time to check in with what am I expecting out of myself? And is that natural? Is that fair? Is that right? Can I ease that?
Yeah, I think if you look at it like that, it's no wonder you see so much binge drinking, especially when I was in college. And that's, when I was in college, I did a lot of binge drinking, even high school. And that's kind of how I even learned to drink. And it was based around those social interactions a lot of times, but the excuse was always, I'm bored, right? And when you look at it, it has to do with values. I think that it makes you say, maybe I am more important than that. Maybe I am a little bit more valuable than that.
I love that you said it. That's when I learned how to drink, because when you first tried alcohol, the first time you got drunk, it didn't feel good. It didn't taste good. It didn't feel good.
It didn't taste good.
It's usually, I guess I will say the first time I got drunk, I got sick, I was puking, And I had to learn how to drink. And so it's something that we're taught how to do, and there is an unlearning involved. And
Yeah.
so we what happens is we start drinking at such a young age, most of
Hmm.
us in high school.
Yeah.
And so we associate all these things with drinking. And it's like that old like statistics, is it correlation or causation? It's correlation. When you're having a good time, you're going to have a good time with or without alcohol. The
Hmm.
alcohol does not cause the good time. But when we are so used to drinking that we've actually messed with our chemicals in our gut, in our brain, and everything's a little out of whack, well, we're in a crave state, at least at a low level. If you're drinking once a week, even, you're in a slight crave state all the time. So that when you take the alcohol, it does provide a sense of relief. But when you cleanse from the alcohol for a long enough period, you actually feel the true drug. It's not what you think it is. It's only because you're in this crave state that it gives you that and because you've attached, the mind's a very powerful place. And if your mind says, just like a little kid loves their blankie, the blankie isn't making them happy, but their mind has attached that to it, So the beer
Right.
is not making you happy, but you've got this nostalgia and you've got all these memories. And so there's a thing that happens. There's a placebo effect, because you can be so stressed out and you're like, I just need a drink. And you have one sip, you sit back, you go, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Alcohol doesn't work that fast.
That's
You
true.
didn't take enough either.
That's true. I think so. So during quarantine, I've drank twice. I've had alcohol
Well,
twice
good
during
for you.
quarantine, and the thing is, I'm not normally I really don't drink very often. It always
Okay.
kind of weirds me out whenever I take a health assessment, at work or whatever, and they're like, "How often do you drink? 1 drink a day? 2 drinks a day?" I'm like, "Well, no. I don't do that. One a day. I don't. What I'll do, for me, it's kind of spaced out. But like I said, whenever I learned to drink, it was like, okay, all the movies that you've seen, that was what was in my head. I think there's a culture that it's like, oh, this is what it is. So I during COVID, it's so weird. They have drive-in liquor stores now, basically, because so you go you go up there and the lady comes up and she's like, what will you have to drink? And I'm like, okay, and I tell her, and so it makes the liquor buying out, the experience way less, I don't know, it's not as bad. And then you have some drinks, and the thing is, after my first drink, like you say, I'm like, oh yeah, that's great. And then of course I try not to drink to the point where I have a horrible hangover the next day. But I feel like no matter how little I drink now, it sort of happens anyway.
Yeah.
And so I'm like,
Well, can I ask you, Jesse,
yeah.
because this is usually what it comes down to for most of us, that alcohol, even just one drink, it's going to mess up your sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not even that
Yeah.
the drug is so strong that it's giving you this terrible hangover, but if your sleep is interrupted, then you're going to be screwed the next day. You're not going to be dysfunctional completely, but you're going to be off. You're not going to be as clear. You're not going to be as motivated. You're going to be in your head a little more ruminating about stuff that doesn't matter.
And that's why I pretty much stopped kind of naturally. In my 20s, it kind of tapered off. After I got out of like the grad school, the school type situations, it kind of tapered off for me to where it was just, whenever my friends got together or something like that. But yeah, I'll have terrible sleep. The next day sucks. And then, but my first drink, I'm like, man, why don't I drink more often? This is great. And then the next day kind of just sucks. And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that's why.
So alcohol as a drug, if we want to talk drugs, and I'm somebody, I'm very openly have experimented with all kinds of things, and I do think there's mind expansive qualities that there's been experiences that I've had that I'm not mad that I had. I'm not anti all of the things,
Mm-hmm.
but when I look at alcohol as a drug, the way the drug works, it's really, you get this euphoric sensation for about 20 minutes on your first beverage. And then after that, the drug wears off. And because you got this flood of dopamine and all this extra, your body's always wanting you to be in homeostasis. So it pulls back on all the natural joy flooding good hormones, and you get that crash. You know, you go out to have one drink after work and you have a great time, and then you're in the Uber ride and you're like yawning, kind of like, ugh, you know, dreading the rest of your night all of a sudden. So you get that crash. So then you have another to come back up, and then you get, it's just this constant chemical wave until you are inebriated, you know, to the point where you're actually just numb. So you don't notice the up down. You're just kind of like in that woozy state, and it's a depressant. I don't think that, you know, if you're looking at like, you know, people go do ayahuasca in Peru, and there's certainly like rituals and things that do involve alcohol. They're not having 6 ounces of whiskey or vodka or five glasses of wine. It's a small portion to get that little bit of opening in that they're looking for to expand the mind. And just like any drug, I mean, again, would you do ayahuasca twice a weekend? I don't think so. Would you do? I hate to use ayahuasca. I know that one's pretty extreme, but any drug, you know, it wouldn't be so casually. Like, I saw a meme today. I've seen it a lot, actually. It makes my eyes roll. It's like, this is a quarantine coffee, and it's a picture of a margarita. It's like, it's a margarita, but there's no coffee in it or something like that. Yeah. And like, what if they said that about cocaine? Like, hey, quarantine sucks. Use some limes. It's way better, right?
I mean, it fills you with energy. It makes you happy, you know.
Yeah.
It is true. Alcohol gets this pass. It always has. It's part of our culture. It's been part of our culture since ancient times, you know, and so it's always gotten that pass. One of the drugs that I'm realizing that has gotten a pass for way too long right now, especially, is caffeine. And
oh my God, I know.
Because it really is not natural. There's never been a time in history whenever you could put as much caffeine as, I mean, most of our ancient ancestors never had any caffeine. And yes, there were some that did, but most of us never had that. If you go back to Neolithic grandma, she wasn't making coffee in the morning. So now, you know, we've got energy drinks. I was over in Poland, and, you know, they have everything's espresso, everything. So their coffee, I like espresso drinks, but whenever all you have is espresso drinks, you know, I can only drink so many Americanos. So I was really kind of looking forward to some drip coffee, but I realized over there just how much Americans abuse caffeine. And, you know, it's these things that we have a million memes about. I hate you until I have my coffee, right? And it's this stuff that, why is that okay? So, yeah.
I mean, I love that you brought up coffee, because I'm not trying to do a war on coffee. The reason I bring it up is because I think that, like, alcohol gives us this faux enthusiasm when we're at a social event. Like, do we really need to be that level? But then, so there's that level of faux enthusiasm, and then you wake up in the morning and you feel like trash, and you have to go to the school pickup line, and you also want to have that faux enthusiasm there, because we have this high level of, like, you know, I look with my daughter and how parents interact with their kids, and they're like, yes, they're like freaking out. I'm like, you're setting this standard for your child to think that's normal behavior. So when they're natural, they're going to think, why am I not as excited as my mom all the time, or my dad all the time? It's like, your dad's on drugs.
Your dad? I'm sorry.
3 cups of coffee and 6 beers at night. Like, yeah, it's easy to kind of numb out and be a character if you're in that way. But I don't think that I think, like, if we're natural, it's okay to be quiet. It's okay to be subdued, and actually just get excited when the things in your life warrant that.
Well, and you can also have a lot of fun when you're not drinking. That's one of my biggest problems with the word sober. It's
the worst word. I'm working on a new one. I hate that word.
Yeah, exactly. I've been using mostly just free. You know, you're free. You're kind of, you know. But if you look up the dictionary, you know, sober, I mean, there's nothing
miserable.
It's like not only are you not drinking, but, like, you're probably realizing some kind of devastating reality. You know, it's a sobering conversation. Oh my God, I hate it. You know, and so, but I've seen your Instagram. I'm just going to come back to your Instagram.
It's positive. It's
you
fun.
can have a lot of fun. That's the thing. So I'm gonna make an admission right here.
I love it. Secrets coming out.
To an addiction that I have. So I was in a rock band when I was younger, 20s and stuff like that. A lot of drinking.
What did you play?
I was the singer. So,
all right.
So I had to be the guy.
You have that breath history from
right,
way
it's
back.
always been there, so to some degree.
Okay.
And so I would a lot of times get drunk on stage and spill my beers over other people's guitars, and they still remind me about that. But I was always very judgy against people that do karaoke. And I was like, hey man, if you can't be in a band, why do karaoke? Then later on, I realized karaoke is amazing.
That's so fun.
Oh my God. So I'll do a lot of karaoke. Now, the thing is, I feel like if you're going to do it, you got to go 100%, maybe 200%. Yes. And so I'll do, air guitar and stuff like that. And you don't have to be drunk to really enjoy these things that are kind of like typically like the stereotype is you go get wasted and you do karaoke at the end of the night or whatever. But yes, you can do that, but you don't have to. You can have a lot of fun and just be silly. It's okay to be silly, I think is I don't know, it's an important thing I think everybody needs to understand is you can be silly and have fun. I meant to copy. I think you did a lip sync to something around Christmas time or something like that. I was like, oh, I got to do one of those. I do a
lot of lip syncing when it strikes me.
Yeah. No, but the thing is, I think it's important to say we don't have to. I think one of the biggest reasons why we drink is because when we drink, we don't care, right? That's the nice thing about it. You know what you're doing, but you just don't care anymore. And so the next thing you can, you feel like, okay, now I can go, ask the person out or do this crazy thing, but you can do these things anyway. It's not like you have to have the drug or the chemical in your system to do them.
Yeah, it's also not only does it kind of give you that, there's chemical stuff where your inhibitions are lowered, but also I don't want to say it takes more courage to do it sober because you don't get to say, I didn't mean that.
Yeah.
I was drunk.
I was drunk.
I was drunk. I'm not like that. We're so afraid to show up as ourselves. And so to be silly when you're sober is very confronting to some people. They were trained out of that at a young age or whatever. And so you can think about the people that are the most judgy about like other people's silliness are probably the ones that are, more apt to only be able to find that when drinking. So in my program, we do kind of, there are different homework and projects to kind of rediscover what actually tickles you. Like let's go back and remember what kind of games did you do when you were a kid? And like, turns out when I'm soul searching, all I used to do was like set up fake like cooking shows and like fake TV shows. There was no video recorders. I mean, that we had access to back then, but and it's funny that I'm doing all this like media type work and teaching classes, and it actually aligns, and I do have a lot of fun and enjoy it, and it aligns with the stuff I dug as a kid. And so then you start taking yourselves out like as if you're dating your own self.
Oh no, hang on. You cut out. You're making an awesome point, and I want to make sure that we get it all. Katie, are you there?
Rewritings. Did I cut out? Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm here.
You're making an awesome point. You're really making an awesome point. Can you?
Yeah. Talking about the kiddos.
Yeah.
Get back. Figure out what kind of things you were actually into when you were a kid. Like, did you always want to ride horses? You have a car. You have money. Why aren't you going to go ride a horse?
Yeah.
That's fun as hell.
Pony rides are cool.
And so we, it doesn't have to be that extreme. There's stuff like just getting outside of your comfort zone. Like, could you go to a concert of a music type you're not used to? I know this is not, fitting in this moment due to the quarantine, but it will happen again. Could you go into some experience that you're not used to? And even watching a movie that's a foreign film or completely the genre that you don't like, just to kind of expand a little bit here. And then start to notice what things actually light you up and do more of those things and start making connections within those worlds. I mean, even coming into the Wim Hof world, that I was still kind of figuring out myself. I didn't have a program of people to communicate with about this. I was a black sheep of my social group. And so I just started kind of going out and doing things that I thought were interesting. And along the way, I've made some really sincere connections. And the great thing about connecting when you're sober is you never run into them the next day and act like you aren't connected.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah,
There's
you're not
no
doing the whole, I don't see you, you don't see me, that type of thing. That's
but last night we told each other everything.
Yeah. So let's suppose someone wants to get involved with Dynamics. What are some options that you offer? How does all that work?
So there's 2 levels of engagement that we do. We have a growing Facebook community, and if you wanted to just kind of do the 12 weeks, but you weren't looking for really a lot of engagement, but maybe you're like, I kind of want to try it on my own with a little bit of support, a little bit of guidance, a little bit of community, you can join the Facebook group. But the full program is 12 weeks. I only have one program running right now, so there'll be another one in September. We'll probably open that up in early August. And that involves weekly meditation, a bi-weekly group meeting with me. We have a sugar thing that comes in because that's just like, we don't want to leave you just addicted to sugar because that can creep in real easy. Yeah. I'm trying to think what else we have in Dynamics. We do a book club, and we're all connected within the Facebook group, and you get hooked up with these other members in accountability partnerships and stuff. And it's a really great program. I've learned over the 4 seasons what works and what people really use, so that we don't have just a bunch of pointless meetings, a bunch of stuff that's just fluff. We're getting to the meat of it here. And the way to get involved is just email me, go to my website. I'm Katie at deeplinehealth.com. My website is deeplinehealth.com. Follow me on Instagram at deeplinehealth. I certainly post a lot whenever I'm having this happen.
They're fun posts.
They are fun posts.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we need to, what I'm discovering, which is pretty fun, is once I opened my mouth about it, after I stopped feeling ashamed of not drinking, all these people came out of the woodwork that are like, oh, I secretly don't drink also. And we're like, great. And so being out it's like, we don't have to be in the closet.
Right. I
There's
do love your
community.
tagline, sober curious. You're sober curious.
Yes.
I like that.
So I'm actually switching it more to sober positive. That's what I like that instead of sober. I've been saying sober positive because it doesn't mean you're sober. I'm not sober. I had a drink in January. Like, it's not that I'm never going to have a drink again, but I'm very mindful about it. And I check out, like, why did I feel I need to drink at that specific thing? Like, I'm just curious. I'm just curious about it. And it leads me to some really powerful realizations, and it really guides me. I'm listening to my body and noticing it. But that was a trail off. You were asking, there was some other question that had nothing to do with that.
But all your information, we're going to make sure to put that in the show notes, and then
and of course, if you want to reach out sooner and get some one-to-one sessions to just get you going on the right path, please reach out to me. I have those available all the time. But you could always join Dynamics then whenever we gear up again for the group version.
Awesome. Well, Katie, I really appreciate you being on the show. Guys, if you're looking for Pilates, all these things, definitely check out Deep Line Health, and I'll have all those in the description box and in the show notes. Thanks again for being with us.
I had so much fun talking to you, Jesse. Always do. I look forward to seeing you again in humanity.
That's right.
Should I mention the ice bash?
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk.
So I had this party going last year. It was sort of like this fun, sober party called the Ice Bash, inspired by my experiences with Jesse and playing with ice myself, because I found that the ice is like a sober drug.
Yeah,
and so
it is.
you connect real easily with people around you when you're around each other inside of an ice bath. That's an experience that bonds you way more than a shot of whiskey ever can.
Absolutely.
So I started having these parties last year, and I intended to have 4 this summer, but kind of waiting to see if that can happen based on what the rules are.
Yeah.
So definitely, if that sounds like something that's fun to you, we get a DJ, we do a little movement, we get in the ice bath, we socialize for a couple hours. It's in the morning, and then we go on with our days and just feel amazing. And so follow me. I'll keep you updated. Get on my email list, and you'll know when that's coming up too.
Awesome. Well,
Let's hope. Maybe this summer.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm going to be up there. I'm supposed to be up in Chicago in July. So early.
For a workshop?
Yeah, July 11th, July 12th. I'm going to do I should be, and let's just hope everything goes right. But
that's very far away to be making plans, Jesse.
I know. In this day and age, it's like, yeah, that's months away. So
yep.
Anyway, thanks again for being on the show. Guys, check it out.
Bye.
Oh, yeah. Okay.